Chris, I'll start with New South Wales if I can. Gladys Berejiklian admitted there's more cases likely coming out of this outbreak, but she's got a few restrictions in ahead of Mother's Day. But New South Wales, it's still open. Now, she's one of these other premiers. You would be in lockdown tonight, wouldn't you?
Well, we would. And I've just come up the main drag of Sydney, just up George Street, and I've noticed masks are out already. So the message has got out and people are picking up masks where they can at kiosks, etc. So it's really good to see people do as they're told, but I wonder whether it is not an overreaction. OK, this particular fellow went to more places in one day than most people would go in a week. That's surprising, and so therefore that may be the cause of it. But I can't remember at any stage during this pandemic when we've had these restrictions brought in over what is basically one sole case and his partners in the same living quarters. Like, I think this is probably as harsh as Gladys Berejiklian has gone. So maybe she's getting some other information from health authorities that might be worrying her. But yeah,
I don't think it'll be the last
situation.
one, Chris. I say this is a Victorian who was locked up for 4 months. A few masks, all your shops are open, you're out and about. You're limited to 30 people. 30 people? I wouldn't know 30 people to invite around on Mother's Day. You're limited to 30 people at home on the weekend. I think you should count your blessings that you've got Gladys in charge and not some of these others. Don't you think, Gleeso?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if we were in Queensland now, Brisbane would be locked down, the Gold Coast would be locked down. And I think, you look around Sydney, as Chris said, and, people are going about their business. My concern is that, McGowan's already announced that he's going to lock his borders up to New South Wales people. I mean, if this escalates in the next 24 hours, I mean, there'll be border restrictions in Queensland, there'll be border restrictions in Victoria. The lack of confidence that we see during this pandemic when it comes to business is extraordinary.
Yeah, that's interesting too. Those comments from Anthony Albanese, making it, trying to make hay politically. I know people are critical of the Prime Minister on India. A lot of people are backing him in too, let's be fair, Gleeso. But no one's thinking that Albo and Labor, 50,000 illegal boat arrivals on their watch. No one wants Labor in charge of the borders again, do they?
100%.
All right. What about,
I think... Sure, go ahead.
No, you please.
No, I think Morrison's handled it very well. I think Morrison has basically said that, if you're coming in from India, you're not coming in until at least the 15th when they'll reassess. But, we can't take the risk. Some of the images we're seeing from around the world are extraordinary. This is a very, very dangerous virus.
Yeah, particularly when we haven't got our vaccines out as far into the community as we might want to. Just on vaccines, we now have 5 new cases today of blood clots, a total of 11, all linked to AstraZeneca, Chris. They say it's safe. They say we should go and get it. I don't know. I was talking to a GP today. The GP said prior to the blood clots, she was badgered almost every day. People saying, when can I book in? When are we going to get vaccines? When can I line up? And these clots have got out there in the media and people are cancelling their appointments. How do you think it's playing out, Chris?
Oh, I get the feeling, and I'm hearing it when I run my radio show on the weekend, that the edge has gone off the confidence, that confidence has been dented drastically. And, OK, it's 11 of 1.5 doses of AstraZeneca, apparently. We're up to about 2.5 doses of both the jabs, which is great, by the way. But having said that, they look at that and people are fearful and people are waiting. And, I'm hearing that there are places, for instance, where we are in Sydney here, that they can't find enough arms to put the jabs into at the moment. And apparently GPs are going to get double the dose numbers that they have this week, next week. Well, I don't know where they're getting the arms from because people are really, really hesitant, but they shouldn't be. It is within expectations. People need to understand. And the 5 that we have recently, all 4 of those 5 have gone home. You heard what he said from the TGA, and 1 is getting better, which is great news. So they're getting through this, we're not only having a small number, but the numbers that are getting the clots are getting through it fairly easily.
I want to go to the issue of aged care. Proposal today from Labor, and I want to reward Labor because I think it's got a lot of policy merit. The introduction, they say, if elected, of a ratings system for homes should be established so people will know how well qualified a particular aged care home is before they put their family in there, and they want staff that are not properly qualified to look after dementia patients stripped of their accreditations. It's part of a big speech to the McKell Institute. I think there's a lot of merit in this, Gleeso.
I think you're right, Peter. I mean, it's easier said than done, though. I mean, we've had the Aged Care Royal Commission, which demonstrated that the system is definitely broke. And if there's one thing we need to do, and that's look after our elderly, particularly those who are in these aged care facilities. Look, I think that there needs to be a bipartisan approach to this particular subject in Australia. Albanese has got some very, very good points in there. I had a look at it earlier today, and it does look solid. But as we know, it's such a subjective, difficult part of the aged care landscape, and it is easier said than done. So good luck to him. I think we need to have a good look at it, but let's hope that the opposition, the government can look at it as well.
I do think anyone who's tried to navigate the aged care system finds it incredibly complex. I mean, I think I can get my head around government policy, and I have found it very hard in the past. I've helped people to try and put some decisions on the table for their family to think about, and I find it confusing. So I think sort of a simple rating system would be a great benefit to families out there. Let's go to this story, Chris, today. Howard Springs could be used for the Indian travelling cohort only and exclusively. This is a new plan being considered by the federal government. Now, I have to say, I am all in favour of this. I don't think Victoria, given all the calamity of failures we've seen over the last 2 days in these secret reports, could cope with a heavy intake of people from India. We've still got Michael Slater out there again today attacking the PM, says he wants the PM to hop on his jet. Mind you, Slater's lying on the beach in the Maldives, but he wants him to get on his jet to India, have a look at how bad things are, and have a debate with him. I think Australians want this resolved one way or another, and I think they think the cricketers, these rich cricketers, are taking cheap shots, Chris.
Yeah, I agree. Scott Morrison didn't create the wave in India, and he certainly wasn't alone in putting a hold or a pause on the people who had come in from India, or Australians coming from India to Australia. That was done by the Chief Medical Officer. So, before he starts to get into adult conversations, maybe Michael Slater should understand that he should read the fine print and do his homework, because he's done none of it. He might have a bit of a chance now sitting on a banana lounge somewhere right next to the ocean in the Maldives, sipping on a cocktail. Lucky for him. But look, the whole methodology of taking these return travellers with the Indian strain in the Northern Territory, I think makes sense, especially for those who would look after them. You're treating people of a similar ilk in a similar pattern. I think that would make it easier. And look, we're sending aid over to India. Those planes are coming back empty. So there's the transportation. Put people on those planes and bring them back in an orderly manner, but at a low level, and especially the vulnerable. We can do this, and we can do it quickly. They shouldn't wait until after May 15, though, because I think the government lost a bit of bark over this.
I agree.
Yeah, look, I think you're right on that point, and I know that in key seats, let's be honest, with election in the offing, in key seats, the Indian community is quite influential in the vote. I've been to Howard Springs. I think it's a pretty, well, I'm a country girl, right? So it's better than any motel I've stayed in. I think it's a pretty good facility. It's certainly very secure. Peter Gleeson, it's secure, there's outdoor spaces, there's clearly a better treatment of the staff, there's less risk. I don't think they've even had a breakout full stop. And of course, it's run by AUSMAT teams, crack medical teams with sort of army training, and it shows.
Yeah, let's be frank here, and you know this better than anyone, Peter Credlin. The hotel quarantine failures in this country are a national disgrace. I mean, Victoria, obviously, the gold medal winner there. I think it's got plenty of potential. I still believe that the Wellcamp proposal here outside Toowoomba has great potential. Let's get them out of the inner cities. That's where this is all sort of going pear-shaped. You've got people in inner city hotels. Clearly there's issues around air conditioning. Clearly there's issues around protocols. We've seen what happened in Victoria in the last 48 hours with the bloke that was actually running the hotel quarantine, breaching every regulation known to man. Get them out into the country, get them in secure premises. It's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
Gleeso, I couldn't disagree more. You've got to have them they've got to be line of sight with a top hotel. Otherwise, when they get seriously ill, we can't treat them and save their lives.
Oh, I disagree. You don't think there's a decent hospital in Darwin, mate? There's a decent hospital in Darwin. It'd be quicker to get from.
Yeah.
It'd be quicker to get from any of these facilities straight into a hospital than in some of the inner city traffic snarls we all know about.